Hi, vinyl community, it's Maria. So I've got a surprise for you today. I am going to be showing a different physical medium that I'm into, books. It's still music related. All these books are about musicians or music scenes. Um, I've been a huge book lover since I learned to read, and as a matter of fact, I I write reviews, I rate, I keep track of when I read books, and I keep them all in my bibliophile. So, yeah, let's get started. The most recent book or in this collection, and probably one of the most recent books that I've read, is Atlanta Record Stores by Chad Radford. It came out this year, 2023. It came out as perfect timing because three record stores in Atlanta, Wuxtree, Wax and Facts, and Fantasyland, are all approaching 50th anniversaries. Of course, Wuxtree started in Athens, Georgia. Now, so this is basically an oral history. Now, Chad Radford was the editor. So he is the editor for the Smithsonian Anthology of Hip Hop, and he was the music editor for the now defunct Creative Loafing, which I miss weekly periodicals that turned into monthly periodicals, then just disappeared. But anyway, so yeah, he's lived in Atlanta for decades. This was it's an oral history. He's interviewing people, and I got to know about stores that I've been going into since the 80s, and got to learn about the people who own and operate the stores. So if you know anything about Atlanta, you're into records, check out Chad Radford's Atlanta Record Stores. So this one, I think a lot of people will know this. Please Kill Me. It's the uncensored oral history of punk. And it's written by Legs McNeil, who started Punk magazine in 1975, and Jillian McCain, who is a poet who she was a program coordinator of the Poetry Project at St. Mark's Church in New York. And that's MARK', not MARX. Anyway, this is, Punk 101. If you want to learn more about, bands that and how they started and the whole evolution of punk in America and in Britain. Now, they start with Velvet Underground, and then of course they go to Detroit and talk about the Stooges and the MC5. Very, very interested. And this is also an oral history. A lot of these books that I'm showing that are books about a scene or a genre are oral histories, and really great. Punk 101. I think most people in the vinyl community who are into punk have read this, and I learned a lot. It came out in '96, and I definitely learned a lot, and it led me to other bands, and pretty fun read. It's a thick book. I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days because I just devoured it. Now this one, this is Annie Leibovitz. These are her, she's a photographer known for portraits, and this is her work from 1970 to 1990. This came out in 91, and that's when I got it. If you can see through the jacket, which I'm going to take off because I've already ripped it once, is the photo of... It's the last professional photo done of John Lennon 5 hours later, and he's with his wife Yoko Ono, and 5 hours later he was killed. So anyway, Annie Leibovitz was she worked for Rolling Stone from 70 to 83. And then in 83 went to Vanity Fair. And so I'm getting a call. I'm trying to do this on my phone. I've never recorded on my phone. The picture looks great, but compared to my tablet. But anyway, I didn't know what to do when I just got that phone call. So yeah, but the reason I'm saying that this is a book on musicians is because, she does portraits. Why can't I say that word? So when she was working for Rolling Stone, she has a lot of pictures in here of people that are in the music business. You've got the Allman Brothers to the right, and then I love this picture of, I think it's Alice Cooper on tour in 71, 72. But I just love the old, the old Holiday Inn sign. I know that people considered those signs eyesores, but I sort of liked it. We've got pictures of Ray Charles, and these are absolutely incredible. I love this of Sly Stone in 72. Love that car. It's I don't know different cars, but definitely American. Love this. I bring this out every so often just to look. Here's a great one. She took the cover. You'll recognize this one is the cover for the Jim Carroll band Catholic Boy. He's with his parents. There's Laurie Anderson right there. And just absolutely beautiful. Oh, and I love this. Liberace. This was taken in 81, which was when I saw him. My aunt and my mother and I went to see Liberace in 81. And I'm telling you, at the show, he was wearing a mink similar to that. I wonder how many, like trench coat length minks he has. But anyway, this picture here I like with all the rings on his fingers, because like for me, when I play piano, I can't wear a watch, bracelet, rings, but he wears these huge rings. And someone asked him, how do you play the piano with all those rings? And he answered, quite well, thank you. And he did. He was quite the showman. And I just love how much color is in these, because he was a very colorful person. And let's see, which one did I mark? Oh, this one is not music, but both of these pictures, you've got Willie Shoemaker, the jockey, and Wilt Chamberlain, the basketball player. Obviously, their dimensions were consistent with the sports they were playing. But look at this one, Reverend Al Sharpton under the hair dryer. I love that picture. So yeah, that's sort of, it's not a book on music, but a lot of, she worked for Rolling Stone, so there are a lot of musicians. Now this one, and I'm putting a few autobiographies and biography. No, I think it's all autobiographies. I've got Ice-T, a memoir of gangster life and redemption from South Central to Hollywood. So he tells the story. He lost both parents in quick succession when he was young, and then moved to live with family in South Central LA. And that's his Crenshaw High School yearbook picture. And he describes how he's open about what he was doing for a living, and he's famous for gangster rap. So obviously he's been very open about being a gangster. I fell in love with him with Body Count. I got to see Body Count in 93, and he was, just like Liberace, like quite the showman. Like he was absolutely incredible. And this is another picture I like, a picture of him with a tattooed fan. The upper tattoo is from the Body Count album, but look at that lower tattoo, like a gun shoved in his waist, in his belt. But so Ice-T, he describes how he had to be very aware, on the streets you could get killed, and that's why he never got messed up with drugs, because he had to be hyper vigilant. And then he cleaned up his act, and he talks about raising his kids, and finding the love of his life. I think they've been married about he and Coco have been married about 20 years, And really great book. This book also led me to Iceberg Slim's book Pimp, because Ice-T sort of took his name from Iceberg Slim. His friends, his name, his given name was Tracy. Everyone called him T. But when he was reading Iceberg Slim's book, every day when he'd go to school, and his friends were like, "Tell us more about Ice-T." So that's how he got the name, and that led me to Iceberg Slim's book Pimp, which is quite the read. This is Mad World, and it feels glossy, like that's what the feeling is. Mad World, and this is also an oral history of new wave artists and songs that defined the 80s. And it's got, like here we've got Dexy's Midnight Runners, and I was surprised. So most of these are British bands, and new wave, new romantic, and a lot of these I considered one-hit wonders, in the U.S. And Dexy's Midnight Runners is one of them, but in Britain had quite a career. And then, and this is probably one of my favorite bands, Soft Cell. You've got Mark Allman, David Ball, synth duo. And so they basically, how many, let's see. So this came out in 2014, and 36 plus artists took part. Let me see if I can find, it's just the way it's set up. It's a very easy read. And, oh wait, so here's Duran Duran, but I need to find a color picture because, oh, there we go. And if you look, John always had the best hair. So yeah, this is a wonderful read, Mad World. The next, so I have always wanted to say this. I Want My MTV, and that's the name of the next book, and it's quite a thick book. The history of MTV. They start with, getting the money. And even in the early days when they asked artists to, provide them with videos, the artist representatives were saying, you're going to have to pay us. And MTV was like, I think that when we play these videos, it's going to get a lot of, I think you'll benefit from it. Which they did, and it broke a lot of artists like Madonna, just how visual the videos were. And the one thing, so they really started to see how this was happening. So cable, from what I read in here, cable first came to rural areas and small towns, because large cities, the infrastructure was set up where they'd have to really adjust it for cable. So what was really funny to me, the MTV offices were in Manhattan, but if the people that worked at the offices wanted to watch MTV, they had to drive to Jersey to do it. And so anyway, they were telling the artists, I think that when if your video gets on MTV, because they started noticing that in certain markets, like a band from Britain, I can't remember which one, was selling really high in certain markets. They're like, these are markets that have access to cable, ergo MTV. So they describe it all the way up, through the 80s, the heyday, and then up into grunge. They, and this is an oral history as well, they interview people who were VJs, and and they didn't pay them much. And from what I gather from the book, the VJs didn't know, from month to month if they'd be asked to stay, and they weren't making a lot, and trying to live in Manhattan, not making a lot. So they were famous, but weren't really making a lot of money, which sort of sucks. And then, really interesting read. And the authors, Rob Tannenbaum and Craig Marks, they were both editors of Blender, and I think Craig Marks was also the editor of Spin. So, this one is, so I got this one, so it was 20 years ago today, celebrating 20 years of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Um, I I bought this in 1987 when it was literally the 20th anniversary. So this it says Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, The Summer of Love, Monterey Pop, BN's, The Psychedelic Explosion, and The Raising of the Pentagon. So this is also yeah, it's more of an oral history with interviews, and they're talking about when Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band record came out, and just walking down the street in Haight Ashbury, and people's windows were open in their apartments, and you could hear the album being played. 3 days after it came out, Jimi Hendrix performed Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song. And I think Paul McCartney and John Lennon were in the audience. And so it really describes this. And reading this in 1987, I was 17, and I was just really getting into, stuff that was happening before I was even born. And it was just so interesting. And then, of course, I got the cassette, and I have it on vinyl, but I got the cassette, so I knew what songs they were talking about. So yeah, 20th anniversary of Sergeant Pepper's, and it was 20 years ago today. That it's a really good read. If you can find it, I wonder if they've even reprinted it. Now, this is one of my favorite autobiographies. It's Jewel, Never Broken. Came out in 2015. And I have to tell you, Jewel, I fell in love with her through her music. She's absolutely incredible. My favorite song of hers is I'm Sensitive, and it's got basic lyrics. The music is very simple, but it's such a profound song. She's talking about or the lyrics are, it doesn't take a talent to be mean, and words can crush things that are unseen. So please be careful with me. I'm sensitive, and I'd like to stay this way. Well, also in the song, she says, we are everyday angels. So her fans are called everyday angels. So I'd listened to her music since the 90s. Reading this book in 2015, I fell in love with her all over again because she's resilient, she's intelligent, she's determined, she's hardworking, and she describes growing up in Alaska. I have the air conditioning on, but it's still a little bit hot up here. She describes growing up in Alaska on a homestead with no electricity or plumbing. She had to walk 2 miles to get to the school bus stop. And then like when I think she left home at like 15 or 16, she was, living on the streets in San Diego. And then people discovered her. Sean Penn helped her out. Neil Young helped her out. And she really, she's so talented at music. She didn't know what the chords were called. She didn't know anything about music theory. She just got the guitar, and then later had to figure out, oh, that's a D chord. She didn't know. She knew what sounded good. And I love that because I'm the opposite. I only play sheet music, music that someone else wrote, and I enjoy it a lot. But I would never be able to do what Jewel does, and she does it so well. And so this was really, I couldn't put it down because it was very inspiring, because she was in some pretty bad situations, and she was able to, when at one point before she left Alaska, she had gotten into a music school that was pretty prestigious, but how does she go there, and where does she get the money? So she put on a show in her hometown, and people paid, and she got money to get to where she was going to go to the school, and then was working to pay for the school. She just really, she's like, nothing's going to stop me, and just really did it. And it just made me love her, and I couldn't put it down. Now this one, Detroit Rock City. This came out in 2013, and it starts in the late 60s and goes to the present, which is 2013 in this book. And this is very tactile. So the other one, the Mad World, felt glossy. This feels sort of dry, but I love it. It feels good in my hands. Well, so if I've never been to Detroit, but I've been reading, so places that tend to attract artists, like New York or Paris or the beats in San Francisco in the 50s, there was affordable housing at the time. Now you can't find affordable housing in any of those places, but Detroit has, it has affordable houses. And I think, even though I've never been to Detroit and I've only read this book, I think that a lot of artists are relocating to Detroit. And so reading this, if you're from Detroit, you should read this. It says Detroit Rock City. Let's see, the days of the Grand Ballroom and the Easttown Theater, and moves on to Michigan Palace, Bookies Club 870, City Club, Gold Dollar, and Magic Stick, all magical venues in America's top rock city. And reading this, it goes hand in hand with Please Kill Me, which, I learned about Iggy Pop, the MC5. They also cover like Alice Cooper, Jack White. Really, they tend to stay more on the, it's Rock City, rock and roll. So they don't really cover Motown, but really great read. And this, I unearthed this. I bought this in early 85. It's the Rolling Stone review 85. So it's actually a review of 1984. And you've got, like, I can just pick it up and open it anywhere and just sit there for, 20 or 30 minutes just reading. They have, bands of the year and bands of the year. So they're covering 84. We've got Elvis Costello, Culture Club, Duran Duran, Eurythmics, Jacksons, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Cyndi Lauper, Huey Lewis and the News, Los Lobos, Motley Crue, Prince, Pretenders. And then it also has, there are record reviews, there are movie reviews, there's, month by month, day by day, what happened in music during those days. And at the end, they're saying like, new things in 1984. Let's see. So 1984, new stuff. And actually, I'm going to put this close. If you can pause it, and you can read some of these because it's pretty interesting. But 1984, new stuff. Affordable car phones, beta movie camcorder, cordless phones, lap computers, records by phone. I don't even know what that means. Rock and roll board games. I don't remember one. Swatches. Remember those. And Virgin Atlantic Airways. So really just fun to dig out and just page through anytime I want. Just a very light read and just to take my mind off things. So the last one, this is A Drink with Shane McGowan. Of course, Shane McGowan of the Pogues and the Popes. I enjoy the Popes' music too. Came out in 2001. So his life partner, Victoria Mary Clark, I think they got married recently. They've been together since about 85. So she was going to write his biography. So she did 8 interviews, and she was going to compile it and do it in a story form, but what she ended up doing, she thought the 8 interviews stood on their own. So this book, A Drink with Shane McGowan, is really the 8 interviews where she's, interviewing her life partner about his life, starting when he was, 5 years old, working on a farm in Ireland. And at the end of the day, everyone had their pint of Guinness. And so at 5, he would have 1 or 2 pints of Guinness because he had worked a hard day's work. He describes, coming to London and the punk scene, and it's his thoughts on music and politics and Ireland, and you can't get more Irish than Shane McGowan. So these are some books I really enjoy. Thanks for letting me share a different medium with you today. Like I said, huge bibliophile from way back. Next time I'll be talking about vinyl records. Bye.